A quiet morning in the Indian Ocean. The USS Abraham Lincoln was making 20 knots, and even the sun seemed to rise a little slower than usual, as if reluctant to disturb the sleeping steel. Down on the fourth deck, in the narrow waste processing compartment, the familiar smell of hot plastic and damp cardboard hung heavy in the air. Ryan Kelly, 22 years old, 90 days aboard, wiped sweat from his brow and tried not to think about the fact that it would hit 104 degrees Fahrenheit again today in the shade of the pipes. At 0647, Petty Officer Gomez's head poked through the hatch. "Kelly, admin office, now. And bring your hands, kid. Something heavy." Ryan figured it was another screw-up with hazardous waste labeling. He was already used to hearing his name only next to the words violation, recycling, and double watch. He climbed the ladder, squinting against the sudden glare, and stepped into the cramped mailroom. On the desk lay a single envelope. Heavy A4 manila, dark blue navy embossing, stamped personal, addressee only. His name typed in crisp military font, Seaman Ryan M. Kelly. And beside it, a small light wood box the size of 2 packs of cigarettes, a neat brass plate on the lid, Lieutenant Aidan J. Kelly, USN. He froze. The air in the little room turned thick, as though someone had sucked out all the oxygen. Gomez slipped out without a word and shut the hatch behind him. Ryan picked up the envelope with shaking fingers. Inside, a letter from his mother in her neat teacher's handwriting, and an official form from the Dover Port Mortuary, Delaware. In accordance with the final wishes of Lieutenant Aidan J. Kelly, requesting burial at sea, only the ocean remains, the one he loved most. He didn't remember sitting down. He only remembered the wooden box suddenly warm in his palms, alive. The ashes of the older brother who taught him bowlines and clove hitches, who left for Annapolis when Ryan was 14, who always laughed, "If I crash, don't plant me in the dirt, toss me in the sea, at least the waves will sing instead of some preacher." Ryan pressed the box to his chest. A knot in his throat wouldn't let him scream or cry. Suddenly, he understood he'd been living in a fog these past 3 months, sorting trash, sleeping, eating, sorting trash again, all while guilt gnawed at him for not following Aidan into the cockpit, for not becoming like him, for staying below, in the filth and sweat, in the most invisible corner of the giant ship. And now his brother had come to him, in a little wooden box, asking for one last flight, only downward, into water instead of sky. Ryan stood. His legs carried him on their own. He stepped out onto the flight deck where the morning launch was already beginning, where the roar of catapults drowned everything. He looked up at the cloudless sky and whispered, so no one would hear, "I'll do it, Aidan. By the book. Exactly how you wanted. I promise." In that moment, for the first time in his entire enlistment, he felt that his hands, reeking of plastic and disinfectant, might be the most important hands on the entire ship. Because today, he wasn't just processing garbage. Today, he was taking his brother home.
Ryan descended into the very guts of the ship, where even the scream of jet engines became muffled, as if someone had stuffed cotton in your ears. Master Chief Lee's compartment lay behind a triple airtight hatch, right next to hazardous waste storage. On the door hung an old hand-carved sign. "We don't make trash here. We repay debts." Master Chief Lee, short, Vietnamese, eyes the color of black coffee, hands scarred from 3 wars, sat at his desk drinking coffee from a battered mug marked Saigon 1972. He didn't look surprised when Ryan walked in without knocking. "You're here about your brother," Lee said without raising his eyes. It wasn't a question. Ryan silently placed the envelope and the small wooden urn on the desk. Lee turned the urn in his calloused palms, then opened the mother's letter. He read for a long time. Not a muscle moved on his face. 3 months ago, I buried a commander off the Vinson. He wanted the sea too. I told his son no. The kid was shaking. You shaking, Kelly? Ryan met his gaze straight on. "I'd be shaking if I walked away." Lee nodded once. That was all the permission he ever gave. The next 4 days became a school Ryan had never known. Not in boot camp, not in any classroom. They built the casket themselves. Pine, not a single nail, only wooden dowels and marine glue. Lee made Ryan plane every board by hand until the wood felt like skin. Inside the lid, Ryan burned the inscription with a calligrapher's iron. Lt. Aiden J. Kelly flew higher than anyone. Now home. 300 pounds of ballast, sandbags and concrete discs. 22-inch holes so the water would enter quickly and with dignity. A biodegradable flag that would dissolve in 6 months. Fresh flowers, white lilies that Lee himself grew in the stern hydroponic garden, because white is the color of both sky and sea. Nights they spent on the empty hangar deck after all aircraft were topside. Chaplain Father Michael, ex-Marine, Semper Fi tattoo on his forearm, taught Ryan how to hold the flag, how to salute, how to stay standing when the bugler played the last notes of taps. "You'll carry him alone," the chaplain said. "I'll be beside you, but you carry him. He's your brother, your blood, your final order to him." The night before the ceremony, Ryan didn't sleep. He knelt before the finished casket, palm resting on the lid. The space was quiet except for the hum of fans and the distant hiss of a press. He spoke aloud to his brother because he could no longer stay silent. "Remember teaching me to jump off the pier from 12 feet? I was scared and you said the sea always catches its own. I didn't get it then. I get it now. Forgive me for not following you into the sky. I thought the sky was everything. Turns out the sea is deeper." Lee entered without a sound, as always, set 2 mugs of coffee beside him. "Tomorrow at 1100, 3 miles from land, 4,000 feet of water. Captain approved it. The whole ship stops. 5,200 souls will stand for you and for him. You ready, son?" Ryan looked up. The tremor was gone from his eyes. "I was born ready." 11 o'clock ship's time. Pacific Ocean. 12 degrees 34 minutes north, 156 degrees 78 minutes west. Not a cloud, not a breath of wind. The sea lay like glass, mirroring the entire carrier, as if the sky had decided to double its might. Over the 1MC came one single call, 4 short bells, 1 long. All hands bury the dead. 5,200 souls froze wherever they stood. Flight ops canceled, catapults silent, even the reactors seemed to lower their voice. On the flight deck, formation, 2 ranks, officers and aviators in khaki on the right, enlisted in dress blues on the left. Between them, a narrow path strewn with white lilies grown by Lee himself. At the end, Catapult 3 converted into a bier, the pine casket draped with a fresh, starched American flag. Ryan stands at the head, in dress whites issued only yesterday, white gloves, face pale but eyes dry and clear. Beside him, Father Michael in vestments with purple stole, Master Chief Lee in dress uniform, and 6 honor guards with M14 rifles. The commanding officer, Rear Admiral Ramirez, steps onto the small platform. His voice carries across the entire ship and beyond. "Today we commit Lieutenant Aiden Joseph Kelly, United States naval aviator and hero, to the deep. He gave his life in the sky so that we might live in peace. Now we return him to the sea he loved more than anything." The silence is so complete you can hear the flag stirring in a wind that barely exists. Father Michael reads Psalm 23. His voice is steady, but it catches slightly, on "And I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever." Then the 3 volleys. 1. Rifles rise. 2. The crack slams into every chest like a second heartbeat. 3. Gunsmoke drifts slowly across the deck,
smelling of powder and salt. The bugler, a 19-year-old sailor from Texas, steps forward. No recording. He plays taps live. 24 notes. Each one tears the soul loose. On the fifth note, Ryan's knees buckle, but Lee catches him with an elbow, unseen. On the final note, the silence is so total, it feels as though the world itself has stopped breathing. Ryan steps forward, places his hand on the flag. His voice is quiet, yet every one of the 5,000 hears him. Aiden, you always said the sky was freedom. Now you're free everywhere. Fly, big brother. The sea will catch you. He and Lee lift the casket together. The 6 guards salute. Ryan pushes alone. The pine slides down the ramp. The flag stays in his hands. The casket touches the turquoise water, pauses for a heartbeat as if saying goodbye, then slips beneath. Bubbles. White lilies spread in a perfect circle. No splash. Only a soft hiss as if the ocean whispers, I'm home. Cameras are forbidden. Sacred rule. No one records. Only eyes. 5,000 pairs of eyes see a brother home. Ryan stands at the rail, flag clutched to his chest. Tears finally come, but he doesn't wipe them away. Let them fall. The sea sees everything.
3 months later, Naval Station Everett, Washington. The Lincoln is tied up at Pier 7, and the whole town is turned out. Band playing, kids waving flags, wives holding babies. Ryan Kelly comes down the brow last from his division. Tanned, broader in the shoulders, new E4 Crow on his sleeve, and eyes that now carry 4,000 feet of water in them. In his mailbox waits a thick envelope with no return address, only the seal of Commander, U.S. Pacific Fleet. He opens it at home, in the old apartment above his parents' garage. A beer sits unopened on the table. Inside, the flag from the casket, folded into its tight triangle. It still smells of ocean and lilies. A photograph, the casket on the ramp, Ryan in whites, Lee beside him, 5,000 souls behind. Someone took it anyway. One hidden camera from the bridge. On the back, in Captain Ramirez's handwriting, for the family. Only for the family. A disc in a clear sleeve. 4 minutes, 38 seconds. Silent except for wind and taps. A sheet with coordinates. 12 degrees 34 minutes north, 156 degrees 78 minutes west. Beneath them in ink. Depth 4,127 feet. Water temperature +3 degrees Celsius. Current 0.4 knots northwest. He sleeps peacefully. And one more sheet, from Master Chief Lee, handwritten on the back of an old parts requisition. Ryan, you thought you were seeing your brother off. Actually, you were saying goodbye to the kid who showed up green and thought trash was just trash. Now you know, we don't clean dirt. We keep honor. We don't hide waste. We repay debts to those who gave everything. The sea never lets its own go. You're one of us forever now. If you ever think about getting out, don't. We still have a lot of work and a lot of brothers left to send home. Respectfully, Master Chief Pham Van Lee, the same Vietnamese guy with 3 wars on his back. Ryan finishes reading, sets the letter down, and walks to the bedroom. He pulls his old sea bag from under the bed. The little metal airplane keychain Aiden gave him the day he graduated Annapolis still hangs from the zipper. He opens the bag, places the flag, the photo, and the disc inside, and then takes out a fresh 4-year re-enlistment contract and signs it without hesitation. The next day he reports back aboard 3 hours early, walks the familiar ladders down into the heart where the presses roar and the air smells of hot plastic. Lee is at the central console, coffee mug in hand as always. Told you, the sea doesn't let go. Ryan smiles and takes his station at the conveyor belt. That evening, when the carrier steams back to sea, Ryan goes to the fantail. The sun sets dead ahead, painting the sky in colors he now knows by heart. He pulls a small splinter of pine from his pocket, a piece of that casket, and tosses it over the rail. See you soon, big brother. I'm almost caught up. The sea takes the splinter without a splash and carries it northwest.
exactly .4 knots.